Hello, welcome to your first Honors Geometry video. In this video, we will be discussing the basic vocabulary that we will be using throughout the school year in Honors Geometry. First, we're going to discuss lines. Lines are made up of infinitely many points that lie straight and extend infinitely far in both directions. To represent this, we are going to put an arrow at both ends of our line to represent that it goes on forever. When labeling a line, there is a couple different ways that you will see lines labeled. Typically, we choose any 2 points that lie on that line and we label them using 2 capital letters and put the line symbol directly above them. So one way to label the line on the left would be line A, B, with the line symbol above it. Notice it has 2 arrows at the top to represent that it is a line that goes on forever. Another way to label the same line would be line AC or line BC. All you need to do is choose any 2 points and then put the appropriate line symbol above it. Another way you may see lines labeled on occasion is similar to the diagram on the right. The diagram on the right has a lowercase italicized letter M. To label this line, we would call it line M. The next vocabulary word is called a ray. Rays are made up of infinitely many points that lie straight and extend infinitely far in only one direction. The starting point of a ray is known as the end point of the ray. Notice that the 2 rays, they look very similar but are actually different. We represent the ray by only putting 1 arrow at one end, since a ray only extends infinitely far in one direction. When labeling a ray, we will choose 2 points on that ray, but the first point we choose must always be the end point of that ray. For the ray on the left-hand side, we must label that as ray X, Y, with the appropriate symbol at the top. Notice the symbol only has 1 arrow. The arrow is pointing in the direction it is extending infinitely far in, so it is pointing towards the Y. The ray on the right-hand side has a different endpoint, so we must label this ray as ray YX. Here's the starting point, end point, and it's extending in the direction of point X. The next vocabulary word is a line segment. Line segments are made up of points that lie straight, but they have a definite beginning and end. These 2 points are known as the end points of the line segment. Similar to rays and lines, they are made up of points, however, they do not extend infinitely far in either direction. To label a line segment, you must label it by its 2 endpoints. Therefore, the 2 line segments shown would be labeled either line segment PQ with the appropriate symbol above it, or line segment QP. The order of the letters does not matter as long as you use the 2 endpoints to label it. Our next vocabulary word are known as points. Points are dots named by a capital letter. We've already been using points to label lines, rays, and line segments. But a point by itself is just a capital letter. So if we would label these 3 points listed as point P, Q, and Z with a capital letter. Next are angles. Angles are made up of 2 rays with a common endpoint. The common endpoint is known as the vertex of the angle. The 2 rays are called the sides of the angle. Typically, most angles we are referring to look like the diagram to the right. You have ray BA and ray BE that make up the sides of this angle. The common endpoint is at point B. They both share that endpoint. To label an angle, we use 3 letters. However, the middle letter must always be the vertex of the angle. So 2 different ways we could label the angle on the right would be angle A, B, E, or angle E, B, A. Notice in both scenarios, B is the middle letter. In some circumstances, we may notice that in the diagram there is only one angle that has a vertex at point B. If there is only one angle that has its vertex at point B, then we may label an angle using only the vertex point. So another way to label this angle would be angle B. Sometimes it may be convenient to put a number on our angle, such as the one to the right. If you write a number, then you may label it as angle 1 or angle 2, depending on how many angles you have in your diagram. Now, not to confuse you, but if you look at the diagram to the left, notice this looks very similar to our line diagram. However, straight lines are also considered straight angles because they do have a degree measure of 180 degrees. So we may also label this straight line as angle ABE because they are made up of 2 rays with a common endpoint. Ray BE and ray BA would be the sides of your angle, with B being the vertex of the angle. Finally, the last vocabulary word we are going to be discussing are triangles. Triangles are made up of 3 segments known as sides. A triangle also has 3 angles as well. To label a triangle, we label it using its 3 vertices. This particular triangle, the order of the letters do not matter for any triangle. So there are 6 different ways to label the triangle given. Now this concludes our video, so now hopefully you have a better understanding of some of the basic vocabulary words we will be using this year in geometry.